Hey there, welcome to Millennium Milestone Presents, a site dedicated to storytelling in books, movies, video games, and other exciting genres where even chainsaws get a moment in their spotlight. We'll get to that momentarily. In the meantime, we finally reached the end of Mobland Season 1, and by God, once again we get a spectacular series that from start to finish just left your heart in your throat each moment. I can't even say enough about the series and where to even begin, from left to right, up, down, all over the place, about how excited I was watching this series. And let's dive into it right now. But before we begin, please take the time to like, share, and subscribe as I dive into at least a quick little recap of the first few episodes leading up to the series finale. The war with the Huracans and the Stevensons kicks off with nothing less than a good old-fashioned London bombing. Richie Stevenson is hell-bent on finding out what happened to his son and is hunting down every member of the Huracans to get answers. Conrad, the patriarch of the entire family, calls everyone back to the house to keep everyone in check and protected as they try to sort out a plan to deal with Richie Stevenson. Before the meeting starts, Conrad is informed by Harry D'Souza that Richie Stevenson's son Tommy is dead, left in a bunker chopped to pieces, leaving them with the needed plan to sort out how to evade having more conflicts or even starting a war with Richie Stevenson. In the meantime, Harry brings Kevin along with Eddie to the shipyard to reveal to Kevin what nobody else knows just yet, that Eddie was responsible for the death of Tommy, as he shows not only the person that killed Tommy, but the body that was stashed in pieces in a box. Conrad receives word of the unfortunate news of Tommy's demise and only tells Eddie, despite knowing the truth about what he had done, that he would talk to him later once he arrives at his home. Meanwhile, Kevin and Harry are left with having to come up with a plan to deal with the situation, and Harry has a Hail Mary idea that may work but requires a little bit of fine-tuning. While trying to implement this plan into motion, Harry makes a stop over at the elderly clinic where his housekeeper Mary is waiting for him to work out getting her mother into this location. In the meantime, he spots a former prison guard that he and Kevin met when they were both in prison. He flashes back to a scene that shows a very horrendous situation that happened to Kevin in the past. So afterwards, Harry comes back to the shipyard along with Kevin to meet up with Valjean, the man that killed Tommy, and he comes up with a plan to coerce him into helping them to divert any attention to them as to who killed Tommy when he talks to Richie Stevenson. So the plan goes underway. Harry calls up Richie Stevenson with the unfortunate news and brings over not only the body of his son Tommy, but also the man that was responsible for his demise. The entire group is at Stevenson's location, and of course the interrogations begin to really get the story, with Richie finally saying to Harry that he'll sleep on what he learns from Valjean before he makes a decision of what he's going to do, and that's Harry to leave at this time. The episode ends with Detective Sergeant Fisk still trying to find any breadcrumbs he can get to trump charges on the Huracan family, which failed early on when they were tailing Harry D'Souza. However, another anonymous tip comes in, and he finally finds the body of Archie, who Huracan had disposed of in episode 2. The questions still keep mounting in this series. At the start of episode 4, Harry pays a visit to Antoine, Bella's associate, who tries to blackmail her into giving him more money for the recording of her father that she was trying to frame. Harry pays him a visit and makes it very clear that he wants the memory stick, not just the first one, but the second one, and that he is not to go anywhere near Bella ever again. The next scene opens with Conrad getting word that Archie's body has been found, and he delivers the news to Maeve, who together they confer and try to figure out who could have tipped him off. It only comes down to two possible people, whether it was himself, Conrad, or Harry D'Souza. Meanwhile, Harry makes his way to a boathouse where Jan and his daughter Gina are hiding from Richie Stevenson while they try to cool down things with the heat that they're getting from the death of Tommy at this time. Jan demands to find out what is going on, and of course Harry does confer to her what's been going on and makes it very clear that she just wants to go home. She wants to be done with this life as soon as possible. He doesn't give her a definitive answer, but he makes it clear that he is trying to make things work out for everyone involved. At the mechanic shop, Zosha gets a visit from a man who calls himself Donnie, who says he has valuable information to pass over to Harry. Nobody knows who this person is, and Harry gets a call and a picture of the person, but doesn't recognize it, only to tell her to let him know if he comes back and then call him only afterwards. Meanwhile, Jan pays a visit to her therapist, unbeknownst to her, of course, that Paul is tailing her at the behest of Conrad, who suspects that maybe it's her that's been tipping off information to the feds. Later on, she texts her new friend Alice to meet her for some brunch, and Paul continues to tail her and mentions, of course, to Conrad where she's going. At her home with Alice, Conrad pays her a visit to suddenly tell her that she needs to be incredibly careful with who she's talking to and what she's conveying to other people. Conrad questions her in a very creepy manner that really lets it known to her that she had better watch her step with him. All the while, Kevin reveals to Harry how he met Bella when he first fell in love with her, and how their consummation of their marriage came with a very questionable tactics, albeit by Conrad. While driving, Harry gets a call finally from Richie, indicating that he wants to meet with him, but alone. He conveys the message back to Conrad, who already has suspicions about Harry at the moment, when he's told the same information that he wants to go to meet Richie alone to find out what he wants to do. Then, next scene, we get Sergeant Detective Fist meeting with what is now revealed to be a agent that is actually working Jan, who turns out to be Alice in this role, and gives her all the intel as to what she's been learned about Jan so far. As for the final moments of this episode, it leads up to Harry finally meeting up with Richie, and Richie asking for one more thing just to kind of be sure that he's certain about what Harry has told him. He gives Harry the duty of taking out Valjean once and for all, and with one more favor and caveat in mind. Calling Kevin later that Richie bought the information that he wants the Huracans to come over to the funeral of Tommy Stevenson.
Oh no!
Oh no, indeed. And get your popcorn, because it just gets better and better after this. Going into episode 5, the Huracans now understand very clearly that they have to make this funeral, because if they don't, obviously it looks even worse if they do go. So everyone goes, of course, plans out everything, including where their weapons are going to be stashed, just in case for other parameters, and just try to play nice with the Stevensons for one day at a funeral of someone that Eddie killed. The other overarching plot that's going on in the story is that of Brendan, the oldest son of the Huracan family, who brings Serafina, his half-sister, over for brunch to talk a little bit about a proposal that he has, and no, not the creepy kind of proposal that he brings to the table, but that of diamonds that he thinks that they could work out as a big old money-making scheme together if she accepts his offer. Onward to the main plot of the story. The funeral for Tommy, of course, goes off with not a hitch, no problems, no awkward pauses, no feds nearby watching them as they are at the funeral, taking photographs of them. So clearly it's going to be a easy breeze for the Huracans in this situation. Or possibly not.
Choke on your lies!
A tension-filled funeral home later. We're now at the wake of Richie Stevenson's home, and now the tension really ramps up a little bit here as the Huracans try to navigate the lethal waters of being in their home at this time. At one point, Maeve tries to make nice with Kevin's family. However, biting words and barbs later, she's almost at their throats and makes a scene where Kevin feels like he has to intervene and drug her with a little bit of wine to slow her down and hopefully not causing more tensions. To add to the already tense situation, Eddie, of course, bumps into someone and almost starts a fight with this person, leading to Kevin and Harry to try and convince Eddie to just go home, and everyone's offering rides to Eddie, which of course they decline very thoughtfully. And of course, Richie steps in and even offers her to help him out a little bit, but clearly nobody wants help from anyone at this point, leading to one last standoff between everyone, where Richie finally secedes from his offer and just says, "Hey, I would like to speak with Conrad privately." So inside Richie's study, everyone's seated, and of course Richie thanks Conrad and everyone for coming to Tommy's funeral, and of course casts aside that pleasantry and gets on to the point of why he brought him here, and said that he didn't think Conrad would have the balls to come over here, but sure enough he did. But with one caveat to say to his face: he knows what happened. He knows he was given a patsy as to who killed Tommy, and he lays it down to Conrad that if he ever sees Eddie anywhere, it's over. So after leaving and heading home and not having any more altercations, everybody goes home and decides, let's just call it a day and not cause any more problems for anyone. Right?
God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
Oh shit. There goes the planet.
So as you guessed it, going into episode 6, trouble's brewing now, as now there's an investigation in yet another murder, or in this case, a car bombing of Richie's wife. So everyone scrambles to get together and get their loved ones out of harm's way, as they know that a war is now brewing here and now. In the midst of all this turmoil, Zosha gets another visit from Donnie and calls up Harry to let him know that he's here again. Harry relents and takes the call from him. Donnie makes it clear that he's here because he is on here to make a deal with Harry, with Cat McAllister, an old associate of his who we find out about later. So everyone makes it back to Conrad's estate and try to figure out who could have come up with this plan to do this. Who would be crazy enough to do this crazy idea to kill Richie's wife?
It was me.
What? God damn it! You can't make this shit up!
No, you can't, and nor can Kevin even process what he's just been told. My mouth definitely dropped. I'm sure if Kevin wanted to, as well as Harry, their mouths would have dropped, but they keep it cool and try to ask the one question that needs to be asked: why? Why would you even think to do this? And of course, the only answer that Kevin gets from his own father is that Richie humiliated him. He humiliated him and his wife, and he was not going to let a single one of the Stevensons get away with it. He was going to humiliate and destroy them one by one. Kevin and Harry just look at each other completely dumbfounded, knowing that they have an even bigger problem on their hands. So they make the best of what they can do, and right away off the bat they make sure that take a head count of everyone here, realizing of course that Brendan and Serafina are not around, so they need to be located and brought to the house immediately, knowing that their lives are now in danger as well. While Harry is on a race against the clock to find Brendan and Serafina, Maeve and Conrad confer in Conrad's office, talking about the situation, and Maeve suggests a sacrifice needs to be made to at least conserve any type of peace against Stevenson, sacrificing, of course, Brendan and Serafina. Conrad looks at her with disdain, says absolutely no to the idea, and just walks off completely disgusted by even the suggestion of the idea. However, May, behind his back, along with Eddie, make the call to Stevenson and offer up Brendan and Serafina as a way of making peace with him.
Yeah, she's crazy.
As the clock starts ticking as to trying to find Brendan and Serafina, Harry makes it to the last location, which was the hotel where they were staying at before they went off with their escort to the diamond deal. He manages to converse a hotel employee to get into the room and find at least some type of information and get in contact with them. He finally finds the business card of the security agency that is handling the situation with Brendan and Serafina, and finally calls the agent to put the phone with Brendan on the line and try to talk him into coming back right away. Brendan, of course, tells him to stay out of this and let him handle this on his own terms, and hangs up the phone on him. However, Serafina catches wind of this and tries to convince Brendan to perhaps listen to Harry, but he's not hearing it, as he wants this deal out of nothing else for his own self-respect and for gaining favor with his own family once again. Seeing that this is not going to work out, Serafina finally texts Harry and gives him the location, and now the clock starts ticking as he tries to find a way to get to that location as quickly as possible. Yeah, let's see how that works out as we now venture into the next episode. And boy, do you really need to get your popcorn and maybe a barf bag for this next bit of information we're about to convey.
Tell me more.
Well, leave that to Harry to figure that part of the situation out as he arrives at the warehouse and finally realizes that no one is there to be found, and Serafina and Brendan have been taken. Only Richie's calling card remains. He reports this back to Conrad and also mentions that there are dead Huracans here who clearly were part of the deal that went down really bad. This gives the only clue that Harry could get from Conrad, who mentions where they operate in their part of London. Back at Conrad's estate, Kevin and Conrad confer along with Maeve as to who could possibly be the rat that's involved in tipping off where Serafina and Brendan were. In other family matters going around the Harrington estate, Eddie's getting cozy with Gina while Jan watches from afar, but is interrupted by a phone call from Alice, who apparently is having marital problems, as she's faking, of course, while she's working for the CID. After the call, of course, Bella comes up to Jan and asks for the phone number of Mary, the housekeeper for her home, and gives that to Kevin. Also in this same episode, Hera arrives at the estate as well, talking about how the CID, or specific Sergeant Detective Fist, is trying to trump up charges on the Harringtons and their drug deals as well. Despite Harry's insistence to not get involved with Antoine again, Bella goes against his word and actually contacts him to continue further with her plans to frame her father. Also in the meantime, while this is happening, Kevin is outside taking a phone call from Mary to surmise the location of a gentleman that Harry saw at the elderly clinic that Mary was at. Outside the Hurricane estate, Harry makes his way to the Moroccans' hideout and goes guns blazing to find at least one person that can give him answers to where Brendan and Serafina are located. Harry finally calls back Conrad and lets him know that he has located them in Amsterdam, and in 2 hours he'll be over there to try and get them out from the Mexicans, which is the worst case scenario for everyone involved because they hate Conrad very much and don't want anything to do with him, and this looks like a very dire situation that requires Harry getting there as quick as possible. Also outside the Hurricane estate, Jan sneaks out without anyone's permission to go see Alice, who had lied to her about her marital problems, and to get more information from her as much as possible. This, of course, creates a very complicated situation when Paul walks in on part of the conversation. Hear her say something to the effect of killers and gangsters. Paul, of course, isn't having it and tells Jan she needs to go and questions her in the car about what she said, and Jan just dismisses as much as possible, but at the same time, when she arrives back at the estate, notices that something else is going on that's not going to go well with Harry. Unfortunately for Harry, he's going to have to just put that aside, as there are much bigger stakes at hand, as we now flip over to where Serafina and Brendan are being held in a bunker with the Mexicans, who happen to be working with Richie Stevenson. Clearly, this is not a good situation, as Serafina and Brendan try to negotiate their way out of the situation, but unfortunately, because of Conrad's relations with Jaime's father in the past, this is a no-go and almost a non-negotiable situation.
Say what?
Sorry, could you say that one more time?
Richie Stevenson is not someone you can negotiate with, let alone the Mexicans. Yep, this is probably one of the most gruesome scenes I've ever witnessed for an entire mob series like this one, and this one definitely takes the cake. With their lives imminently in danger, Kevin scrambles to call Harry right away, who asks Kevin just to give him 2 minutes and scrambles to make the only call he could possibly make, that to Kat McAllister, who begs of her for a favor. In the end, it's just slightly too late for one Harrigan, but at least the other is saved. Which brings us to episode 8, The Aftermath. Brendan is now dead, in case you didn't figure that out before, and Serafina is brought back to Harry to escort her back home to her family. Now the war is in full-fledged mode, and everybody is ready to take somebody's head off here. But before anything else could be settled, Kevin asks Harry how he managed to rescue Serafina with the limited time that he had. Harry reluctantly reveals to both him and Conrad that he contacted Kat, which raises eyebrows, especially to Conrad, who is aware of her reputation. We don't know who she is, but clearly she's very powerful and has connections that go deeper than even Conrad does. It worries him, and he does question Harry as to whether he can still be trusted, and he tells him he doesn't switch teams. He's loyal to Conrad. On a completely different other front, we're introduced to another character, that of former Deputy Chief Inspector Colin Tattersall, who is now working alongside Fisk and Mukasa, trying to gather more evidence. We're not sure of his intentions, but he has years of experience dealing with the Huracans and the Stevensons, and offers up quite a resume of intel as to how to break either one down. He is more interested, though it seems, in taking down the Huracans. Flipping back to Harry, Kevin has a one-on-one with Harry about his involvement with Cat Stevenson's, and expresses concern, especially when he brings up that now he needs to use Cat once more to broker a deal with Jaime, the very man that killed his brother, to work out some way to work for the Harrigans rather than for Stevenson. While Harry shares his concerns, he says that he has it under control. He'll do his best to broker this deal. In the meantime, though, there's just one other matter he needs to tend to.
Gina's shagging Eddie.
Morning, Harry.
Hey, did you see that?
While I'm sure that's probably what Harry would love to do to Eddie, he knows his place. He knows the complication that comes with touching a Harrington in this situation. So he kindly has a conversation with Eddie, just to be kind, to be caring, to just be kind, to not do anything harmful to Gina. But there is just one last thing he says to him before he leaves.
I'll be right there with you, mate. Right by your side. And I'll push you off.
After the dust settles on that messy little matter, Harry goes off to take care of the more bigger fish he needs to fry. While that's happening, Jan is asked to Conrad's office to basically call Alice and allow him to speak to her, which she reluctantly hands over the phone to him. When Alice answers the phone and hears Conrad's voice, Conrad invites her to dinner tomorrow to get to know her just a little better. Clearly nothing wrong with that idea, right? Also stuck in some entangling crosshairs, Bella gets her plan underway with Antoine to frame her father, and is stopped over by Conrad to have a word with her too as well. While the majority of the conversation revolves around Conrad's concern of his son Kevin, and his head is in the game right now, and asking Bella to spy on him, there is a revelation brought here about a connection between her and Conrad, which is unsettling. After that unpleasant encounter, Bella comforts her husband, Kevin, and tries to tell him about what's going on with Gina and Eddie, which he doesn't seem focused on right now, but has other matters on his mind that are weighing heavy. After she leaves, Maeve comes in and has a word with him as well, and basically tries to convince him that he needs to step up if he doesn't want Serafina to take his place in the Harrigan family, crime family. Kevin tells him not to worry about this. This is ridiculous, and this is not even the most important thing right now. But then, for one last biting word Maeve throws in there, she says to him, either you worry about it or your other brother will.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming either. And, yep, the show is definitely on par with Game of Thrones, if you know what I mean. Before Harry meets up with Kat, he calls up Freddy to call in another favor from him, since he owns him pretty much, and wants to find out about everything about Richie's operation and what he's going to have to do to take him down. In that conversation, of course, Freddy reveals to him something else very relevant to the conversation, but before that happens, he tries to double-cross Harry, and which turns out to be a very terrible mistake, which he reluctantly realizes he's got no way out but to go with Harry's plan. He finally tells him who has been ratting out the Harringtons' plans to Richie. After disposing of Freddy, Harry calls up Sosa and tells her that there's a change of plans and he needs to go see someone else, which is that of Donnie, his new contact for Kat McAllister. He finally goes underway with his plan to work out a deal with her. The final moments of the episode end with Richie Stevenson meeting with Fisk and Mukasa to broker a deal that he would sell information to them regarding the Huracans. However, the tables are turned when all of a sudden this happens.
Copper.
What?
Apparently, the feds are also bought out by Richie Stevenson.
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
Well, if you made it this far into the video and you haven't been whacked yet, then you're ready to get on to the final 2 episodes of this crazy series. On we go as we start off with episode 9, Bella leaving the estate and coercing Paul to cooperate and let her do so. While in Conrad's study, he talks to Harry about plans for trying to convince Jaime to form an alliance with after he backstabbed Richie and not finished off the job he was supposed to do. After the death of Mukasa and Fisk, Colin now is the deputy chief of the CID and will now handle the investigation regarding their deaths as well as the undercover mob operations going on in London at this point. He has a follow-up conversation with Alice, who has very serious reservations about going to see the Huracans at their estate and begs off the offer, but Colin, who is very witty and very discerning, offers her the opportunity to get a promotion and to get more honor and even more money than she could ever imagine, and finally convinces her to go through with this plan. At a local pub away from the Harrigan estate, Conrad, along with his entire crew, go to meet with Jaime Lopez, who has been convinced by Kat McAllister to meet up with them and to hear the deal that he's offered by the Huracans to get 50% of the operation that they run with his cartel. However, he throws a little bit of a shade at Harry that leads even more suspicion as to what's really going on between him and Kat McAllister. Not only that, he also doesn't answer Conrad's question of whether he would accept the offer or not, but only would think about it, much to the same frame of what Harry had once said to McAllister years ago. Bella finally meets up with Antoine and sets up the meeting with both her father, and the diplomat that they're looking to frame, and speaks with her father to make sure these plans go through without a hitch. On the other side of the coin of what's going on, Kevin apparently has very bad intentions in mind as he goes to the elderly clinic and picks up Alan, the man that hurt him so many years ago, and wants to have some final words with him. Back at Richie's base of operations, Colin goes over the specifics of Alice infiltrating Conrad's home, planting evidence, and having a recording device in her cell phone that will allow them all the intel they need to trump up charges on the Huracans finally. A very pleasing news for Richie, as he hopes to finally be sliced off the head of Conrad and the rest of his clan. They also go over what to do with Harry, as They know that Harry is unhappy in his situation and knows that the end is coming for the Huracans. Kevin pretends to be a cabbie driver, bringing Alan back to his home after visiting his wife over at the elderly clinic, and uses his opportunity, pretending to be this driver, to use the restroom and get to know Alan a little bit better before turning the tables on him and revealing who he truly is to him. The situation gets messy as Alan tries to ask for forgiveness to Kevin for what he had done, showing that he'd even changed and had remorse for some of the things he did, now becoming a man of God, as he claims. But this doesn't go over well with Kevin, as he pulls out a gun and makes it clear that he wants him on his knees begging for mercy, to torture him and make him feel what he felt all those years. Alan's frightened voice and pleading for his life and telling him that he has kids overwhelms Kevin to a point that he just simply pulls his gun back and just breaks down in tears after years and years of pent-up rage over what had been done to him. So he calls it a day, and that's the end of it.
Do you have a child, perhaps?
Oops.
Or so we thought Kevin was the level-headed one. Who'da thunk it? Yeah, so now we got another cleanup for Harry to take care of at this time. But before Harry can take care of that problem, he gets a phone call from good old Jaime Lopez, who first off asks him, "Do you know who the rat is?" Yes, of course Harry knows. Take care of it, and we have a deal. And hangs up on Harry. Next up, Harry calls up Kat McAllister just to thank her for setting up the deal. She reminds him, though, that this is not simply about the deal, but that she's going to be heading to London and would like to meet with him in the afternoon tomorrow. Afar in another part of London, Bella finally implements her plan to frame her father, with everyone at the table seated and ready to pull off this devious plan. Back at the Huracan estate, Conrad thanks Harry for what he's done to set up the deal with Jaime, and gives him a handsome reward for that, for both him and his wife. And of course, dinner now is ready, with the guest of honor arriving shortly after. With quite the fancy feast on display, everyone is seated and, as a typical family dinner as would, Huracan style, as biting words and undertones are thrown at each other. And at a point where Alice is now interrogated by Serafina, who questions, "Did you not even think to ask or even look up where you are and who you're with at this time? You don't find that odd at all?" she asks her. And of course, Alice says nothing about it, but utilizing the situation as it starts getting tenser and tenser in the conversation, with Maeve adding fuel to the fire, she takes the opportunity to go to the restroom and implement her plan in motion at this point. And as predictable, or perhaps sometimes unpredictable as the Huracans can be, this happens.
Is it a scene you're looking for, Maeve? Is that it? Tell me now! Speak up!
Yep. Conrad goes off the rails and throws accusations right directly at Maeve, as he realizes and is revealed there at the dinner table as it was her that tipped off the information about where Archie's body was. And the furious accusation goes so far out that even Maeve reveals that it was her idea to have Serafina taken out, as well as Brandon, in the conversation. So, oh boy, everything is just spilling out outside the dinner feud. Harry sneaks off and catches Alice in the act of doing what she was about to do. And, oh boy, you're expecting another situation where she gets off just like he's done every other victim. Until then, this unexpected twist happens.
Carl. No.
What did you do?
Good question. And looks like we won't find that out for quite some time, but at this moment in time, what we do find out is that right as the Huracans are about to kill each other off in one stroke, the feds arrive, and now it's time to act nice and calm down, as they all realize that they're all about to get arrested. Sure enough, the authorities all arrive in full tactical gear, and off the Huracans go, both the patriarch himself, Conrad Huracan, and Maeve Huracan, Bonnie and Clyde, are off to jail.
But wait! There's more.
And that brings us to episode 10, where we pick up where we left off with Kevin, who is having sort of a Hamlet or Shakespeare type of moment, talking to what's left of Alan and letting him know what he has gone through his life, and realizing that Alan was not the man that made the monster he is, that there's another monster that he needs to go visit. Harry finally arrives and begins cleanup duty to clear up everything that's happened over here, and fills in Kevin on what's happened since all the women in the Hurricane family are once again moved to a safe house further away from the estate of Conrad to prepare for what may be the final battle in this duel with Richie. Harry arrives at Harry's place. Right off the bat, Harry asks how long she's been working for Richie all this time, which is much to her surprise and chagrin, as she now realizes that she's in a tight corner. Meanwhile, Kevin pays a visit to his dad and reveals about the betrayal of Hera, and also reveals something else regarding that this is one more thing that Conrad did not know. He makes it clear that he's done with his father's way of doing things, and that he would be handling things from here on out. At another correctional facility, Eddie is asked to pay a visit to Maeve, his grandmother, and get some very damning news that he was not expecting to hear that changes his perspective on things.
Oh my God!
Hera calls up Richie, informing him that she's been compromised and that Harry is onto her and her dealings with him. The two of them agree to meet together over at his operations at the Sinful Monkey, and sends his men to go after Harry and Kevin, who are meeting her at her office, to ambush them and take them out quickly. He also sends another crew to go after the families of all of the Huracans that are left over at the safe house as well. Eddie returns from his visit from Maeve and reveals to his mother, Bella, that he knows the truth now, that he is not Kevin's son, but in fact he's Conrad's. Yeah, that still doesn't sit well. Let alone what happens next here. Richie's crew that went over to Harris' place to take out Harry and Kevin come to find a nasty little surprise in the form of Paul, who's planting explosives in them just to welcome them for their time and effort to come find them. This also leads to another explosion that happens to be waiting for them on the other crew that Richie sent over to go take out the crew over in the safe house location. So clearly things are turning the tide a little bit in this war. Unfortunately, there would be casualties as Kiko, Zosha's partner, is taken out in the ensuing attack at the safe house. But that doesn't stop the rest of Harry's team as they finally infiltrate Richie's location and finally take him out once and for all. Using Hera as a decoy, they shoot right through her, right into Richie, and finally put a bullet right through his head as well as Hera, ending any further interference from Richie Stevenson's group. So there is a bit of an epilogue after the events of what took place here, and I'm going to kind of leave that so you can kind of see the rest of the series and at least take a chance to really dive in and see what the whole fuss is about with Mobland, because as I said, this is probably one of the best crime drama series I've seen in quite a long time. There are people that say that Sons of Anarchy is way better, which I can understand, especially with numerous seasons that have been around for a while, and to compare this over to Sopranos, that's a bit of a stretch to try and even do, let alone other crime dramas like even Peaky Blinders. But for a first season, Mobland is worth a watch, and I would definitely recommend you checking it out. Some of the highlights of some of the best people that were in this was definitely Tom Hardy, who is just as smooth, cool as a cucumber of a guy that fixes every problem, no matter how big it is, large or small. And then also you have supporting this cast that of Pierce Bronson and Helen Mirren, who again are just incredible villains, or anti-heroes if you want to even call them that in some respects. They bring out the Macbeth vibes in such a way that you could not even stop watching but loathe them at the same time. And even feeling a sense of jealousy that they're as crazy, unhinged, and calculated in everything they do in that of Mobland. And then the rest of the cast is absolutely stellar too, even down to Eddie, who I don't remember the name of the actor for that role. I'll probably punch it here in the video here with a text and everything. But he also too was a stellar actor in the way he treats this obnoxious punk kid you wanted to see get his comeuppance, but every time he just found his way out of any situation every moment. But all in all, I would give Mobland absolutely a excellent series. It's definitely one of those series that will be memorable. Hopefully, if they keep this run going in the next coming seasons, it will definitely be something that'll be remembered and possibly in pop culture for quite a long time to come. But hey, maybe you've already seen Mobland. What do you think of it? Do you think it's the best series out there at all? Like, share, and subscribe. And you best better believe, out of anything else I've said in this entire video that I always say in the outro, I'll be back.